Hey everyone, Kristen from Maybe a Better One and Knits here today to share with you my top 5 tips to make your hand knit sweaters last longer. We put a lot of work into our hand knit sweaters, 40, 50, 60 hours, maybe even more into making these sweaters. We want them to last a long time. So I thought it would be helpful to go over some tips that are going to help make sure that your sweaters really become, I don't know if I want to say heirlooms, but are lasting you for years and years to come, can be passed down to other members of your family if you like, and don't wind up in the trash. So tip number 1 is to use the best quality yarn that you can afford. That's not to say it has to be luxury yarn or indie dyed yarn, because in those cases you are paying a premium for the craftsmanship that goes into dyeing the yarn, not necessarily because of the fiber itself. So when I say the best quality yarn you can afford, basically what I mean there is a wool or a wool blend that combines softness with sturdiness. So you want something that you're going to wear, and if it's super itchy, you're not going to wear it. But you also want something that's going to hold up and stand the test of time. So yarns that aren't, or fibers that aren't as hardy aren't going to do that. So you want to get a nice combination of strength and sturdiness in your wool, which means you want to pay for a good quality yarn. That doesn't mean you can't get good quality yarn for a bargain. You know, a lot of Knit Picks yarns are really quite high quality and very sturdy and soft as well. So it's not to say you have to spend a ton of money on yarn, but you really want to do some research and, taking your budget into consideration, get the best quality you can afford for your garment yarns. And again, that's going to be a nice combination of softness to make sure that you wear it, but sturdiness to make sure that it's going to keep its shape, that it is not going to pill excessively, that it is not going to wear through and develop holes. So that is number 1. Number 2 is to wear a layer underneath your sweater. Washing your sweater, and we're going to get a little bit to that in point number 3, it's important, but it can also have a negative impact on the fiber, the wool, if you do it too much. So you want to minimize how often you need to actually wash your sweaters. And one way to do that is to wear a layer underneath of your sweaters. This is going to keep a lot of the oils and dirt and sweat from your skin off your sweater so that you don't have to wash it as much. And that is going to help it last for a longer period of time. That's not to say you should never wash it, but you should not be washing your sweaters every time that you wear them. And basically during kind of sweater season, maybe you want to wash your sweater once or twice during sweater season before you put it away. And depending on where you live, sweater season might be, here it's probably like November through March, maybe even April. And you only want to be washing it a couple times during that period. So put a layer underneath that is going to help absorb some of that oil and dirt and sweat and things from your skin so that you don't have to wash your sweaters as often. If you actually get something on your sweater, especially if you have kids, you want to go with spot cleaning. Don't wash the whole sweater unless absolutely necessary. If you're feeling like, you really need your sweater, you feel like your sweaters are dirty, consider airing them out instead. So if it's a nice breezy day, even if it's cold, that's fine. Just take if you have a kind of a foldable drying rack, maybe if you are lucky enough not to have a homeowners association, which have a bunch of stupid rules, you can use an actual clothesline and just take your sweaters outside and let them air out. Turn them inside out, let the air run through them, which is maybe going to get rid of some smells and things, but is not going to cause any excessive wear and tear on the fabric. And that brings me to point 3, which is that you definitely want to wash your sweater at the end of sweater season. Before you put your sweaters away, assuming you live in a climate that you don't wear your sweaters year round, you definitely want to clean them up, get all of the oil and dirt and things out of your sweater, because if you leave them in there, that is more likely to attract bugs. It could be moths laying their eggs. It can also be carpet beetles, which are more common around here and will also eat your yarn. Of course, making sure that you have stored everything properly during the off season is also important, but make sure that you get your sweaters cleaned up before you put them away so that you don't have any errant smells or stuff in your sweater that's going to attract bugs or something else that may want to munch on your woolens while they are stored away for the off season. Point number 4 is to prudently depill your sweaters. Pretty much all sweaters are going to develop pills, little blips of fiber that have kind of broken off from the main strand of yarn and form a little ball. This is definitely going to happen sort of under the arms, where your arms are rubbing against the side of your sweater, or any other spots on your sweater that, if you carry a purse and you have a shoulder strap, that is, anything that gets a lot of friction over time is going to create pills. You do want to take them off, but you want to be judicious about it, because if you're actually kind of shaving away some of the fiber, which eventually, is going to end up creating holes if you do it too often. So again, I'm going to say you don't need to be doing this 4, 5, and 6 times every sweater season. I recommend, maybe kind of once in the middle of the sweater season, doing some spot depilling, and then again at the end of sweater season, before you put your things away for storage, go over all of your sweaters and depill them with, I don't like the sweater, what do they call it? Sweater stones. I think they're a little too rough. If you have a gleaner, I really like that. It is a depiller that comes with, I want to say, 3 different blades, for lack of a better term, of different textures depending on how fine your yarn is. And again, go over, depill. If there's a spot that doesn't have any pills, you don't have to depill that part. Again, you are actually rubbing some of the fiber away from the fabric, and you want to kind of minimize that. So yes, depill. You don't need to do it constantly though, so be judicious about your depilling so that your sweaters will look good, but not, lose too much of that fiber that is giving them their structure. And then the last point I want to make about helping your sweaters to last longer is to never, ever, ever, ever put them in the dryer, and really don't put them in the washing machine either. Even if they're superwash, even if you have a front loader, it's so unpredictable what kind of wear and tear they're going to be getting in there. It is an investment of time to hand wash your garments. But again, if you're only doing it a couple times a year, it's not that big of a deal. Dory has thoughts about this. If you're only, as I suggested, washing your sweaters a couple of times a year, hand washing them is not quite such a time consumer. But even in a front loader, I have seen and experienced myself, things can felt, things can get damaged. Your washing machine is just, it's too unpredictable. If you absolutely must put them in the washing machine, gentle cycle in a front loader, cold water, you know, maybe maybe 2 sweaters at a time, but really my number one recommendation is to just not put them in the washing machine at all, and absolutely never ever put them in the dryer. The heat, even on a low setting from the dryer, is going to damage the fiber, it's going to damage the fabric. Hand washing, laying flat to dry is absolutely the way to go. All right, so those are my and Dory's top 5 tips for making your hand knit sweaters last longer. If you found these tips for preserving your hand knit garments useful, I encourage you to check out my Sweater Siren e-course. It is now available as an independent study, which means you can take it anytime and work at your own pace. You can find more information at mediaperuana.com/sweatersiren, and I will include a link in the description box down below.